Well, let's segue right on into the business license and business impact fees, because that also affects the budget, affects the amount of revenue the city has coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor has been very vocal that he wants a significant change to some of those business license fees, the impact fees, things like that. What are your thoughts about that? What would you propose? What would you like to see happen in that area? Everybody talks about we need to be more business friendly, but it really does come down to money.
It absolutely comes down to money, and for every dollar that we don't collect, we have to make it up somewhere else if we're going to keep the balanced budget. A lady approached me the other day, and she said, I want to do something with my business, and that's hire an individual to work for me. But that individual approached the city the other day, and her business license to operate will be, I believe it was like $600 for some very minor type employment. She says, I can't afford to bring that person in now because it isn't going to be cost effective. We need to do something. As far as getting rid of all of these fees, probably not. I'd like to see them prorated out. I think it would work just as well. If the person's going to be, or the business is going to be successful, they'll be able to pay it all back to us. We get it back one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes up front is difficult. When I was in Los Angeles, and I was in the automotive business for 10 years there, city of Los Angeles, I paid a gross business tax to the city of Los Angeles, and it was sizable. And my neighbors in the same field of automotive work in Burbank, which was approximately 10 minutes drive from where I was located, because I was on the one end of Van Nuys, and if you know Southern California, it's right around the corner. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a gross business tax. Guess where the businesses were moving? Across the street to Burbank.
What would you replace a gross revenue fee with then?
I don't think I'd replace it. I would look at some other type of, and I'm not sure exactly what, but I don't like gross revenue taxes. They kind of inhibit you wanting to do more business because you're paying more taxes.
Yeah.
And the alternative to that is, to be very honest with you, people lie. When they're in cash businesses, they're certainly not going to report all of that to the city. So it doesn't bring about sometimes the honesty you want. So there's got to be another way. The answer to that, I really don't know at this point. But I would like to see everything prorated out, so they're not hit up front, because as everybody knows, the first year, sometimes 2 years of business is the toughest.
Yeah, and you guys reworked the liquor license
yeah, if it can be worked
upfront fee,
yeah,
and you stretched
that for
that
that,
out.
it can be reworked for anything.
Yeah, it seems though you would have to approach this whole situation in one package. You really have to lay it out, and
absolutely.
You can't. It just doesn't seem like it would be a good thing to do it piecemeal.
No, and it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It just brings about confusion, both for the staff and for the people that are approaching the city, and our image of being either we are business friendly or aren't business friendly. And I think I would package that in with some incentives, which I've talked to the city manager about and the mayor. We've got to market ourselves in this city, and because every city's trying to do the same thing. And,
That's right.
But we've got to stand out. It's basically down to, why should I open up a business in Mesquite? And we've got to have an answer. And
what
right
would
now,
you, what would you want that answer to be?
Basically, this is what we can do for you, and advertise it across the board. Not a logo for the city, but a true approach to businesses. So when somebody comes into City Hall, they're going to ask that question, and I'm sure they do now. What are you going to do for me?
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be uniform. It's got to be across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to have the same chance. I put a little article in your paper on that. Small communities that are doing that, and it's being done all over the country. We're not reinventing the wheel.
And you and I have had some conversations about this privately. You've done a lot of research in economic development, so let's go right on into that. You guys are just segueing all of these questions perfectly for me over the whole course of these interviews. But you have done a lot of research and a lot of investigation into economic development activities in other cities, other places, what worked, what didn't work, what's good, what's bad. Take that into Mesquite and then into the Mesquite Regional Business Corporation that is now in the formulation stage.
You need a synergy. You've got to have everybody working towards the same goal and everybody on the same page. Having a privatized economic development is not a panacea. It works in some places, it hasn't worked in others. And when you go back, you find out that either there's been too much influence on the part of the city or the state government, or not enough, and they've allowed these agencies to run amok, and then favoritism comes into play, and agendas come in. So it needs a balance. And privatizing, I think in this case, is going to work. And of course, we've been told, well, you know, we spent a lot of money on this sooner or later. Well, we spent a lot of money on other things in economic development, and the results have been dismal, to say the least. And I'll call them as I see them, dismal, with a lot of money going out the door so far. Do we have anything to lose? Sure, we have money to lose. We also have our reputation to lose as a city. Because this privatizing can work real well, but if they don't get the cooperation of city and local government, and state government for that matter, then it won't work.
Okay.
We do it right, and it will work. And that's, again, where they've got to be able to offer things, and the city's got to back them up.
Yeah. Right on into the complaints, the hot button issue lately, about the downtown corridor, and we're defining downtown corridor as Mesquite and Sand Hill Boulevards. There's been a lot of complaints, a lot of talk lately about doing something with the blighted properties, the run-down properties. Have at it.
If you go back to the minutes of the council when this goes back to, I believe, the third year when Bill Nichols was in office as mayor, he asked me to speak to the city council in public about the blighted areas in the downtown. And at that time I did a survey, and I located 27 buildings that were in desperate need of renovation on the outside at least, and vacant lots, this, that, and the other. And I spoke my piece then and said, we've got to do something about it. Well, this has been 6 years, and it's just worse than what it ever was before. And I just drove down the entire length of Mesquite Boulevard, and it's sad looking. It's worn out, to put it bluntly.
What do you think the solution is?
Well, first of all, one of the solutions is to get together with the absentee owners of these properties, and a lot of them are absentee, and get some sort of a meeting going with them, the best you can do. And lay it on the line to them that we need improvement on their part. We can't take away their properties and rip them down. As, you know, all you're going to be is in litigation from now to doomsday.
So no eminent domain?
I'm not a big fan of eminent domain.
Okay.
It's got to really serve a purpose. Sure, if you're going to run a freeway through a neighborhood, and it's a matter of using eminent domain or spending $50 million to go around the block with the freeway, eminent domain makes sense. But just to get somebody to clean up their property by taking it away from them, no. But we do need something. We need to spend some money in the downtown.
Where would you get that money from? RDA?
RDA.
Reserves?
I think RDA to start with. Again, I go back to the city's position paper on what RDA is for. And it states right in there for the blighted areas of the downtown areas.
And yet we've spent $12 million and not
on non-blighted areas.
Yeah,
to put it
hardly
bluntly.
a dime on that area.
That's right. We have one of the most beautiful police stations that I've ever seen. I have absolutely nothing against the police or the police station. I love the guys. But that's a palace. And it's not in a blighted area. It was in a nothing area. There's nothing there. A little industrial. We spent $1.7 million on a lot that wasn't blighted. It was just a piece of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And there it sits. And what else did we spend money on? Well, RDA money all over the place. And we don't really have, other than a beautiful police station.
$2.5 million on Solstice driveway to their RV resort.
Exactly, to benefit them, not us. So the only thing we have to show for it is, to me, is a police station, which is very, very nice. There's nothing wrong with it. And in the long run, probably money fairly well spent. But prioritizing it, I'd like to see this downtown look more like a downtown.
How would you go about using the RDA funds to work with the property owners to improve the appearance of those properties?
Well, first of all, we've got to get them in so they even know what we're doing, and that there's RDA money available for them, and that we'll work with them from start to finish on projects to spruce up their businesses. If it's an ongoing business, I would hope that if they realize that they've got these funds available to them, it would probably improve their business, which improves their bottom line. People want to go into nice-looking places if they can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I think we'd need to do, is get these people involved.
Okay.
Get them into town.
There's only $2.5 million left in the RDA bond fund. There is incremental tax coming into the RDA funds, but everybody kind of has 16 different ideas to spend that $2.5 million.
Yeah, it has to be, and I can't give you the answers as to how exactly it should be spent, but I know one thing, that we better spend it prudently when we spend it, because there isn't much more.
And let's take that right on into the proposed indoor sports / events complex.
Okay, I think you probably from the beginning know my opinion of this project.
Go ahead.
I'm opposed to the project, period. Okay, it isn't the best use of the money, number one. I don't see that it will return enough to the community, and that's probably the main thing. The other thing is, and I've asked numerous times, as to how this program will be ongoing once you build it. It's easy to build a building or something else. This is something I was very used to in Hawaii, where they'd put up a beautiful edifice and spent a lot of money, and then it came time to maintain it and run it, and there wasn't any money.
Well, and that's a concern that a lot of people have. We're already subsidizing the current recreation facilities to more than 50% levels.
That is correct.
We're spending an awful lot of money on operating and maintenance of our current sports complexes. And there's some significant concern about operating and maintenance funding in the years out, which is going to be, no doubt about it, in the years out, is going to be more than the construction cost.
Oh, absolutely. One of the issues, and I'd asked the question, and I never did see the answers. I did ask the question, how long would a membrane, and this is just a hypothetical, how long would the membrane on this tent last? And I was told it will last 10 years. That would be normal usage. Warranties 10 to 15 to 20 years. I looked them up on the internet on companies that build them, and they're giving out like 15-year warranties. Well, okay. I said, well, what does one of these membranes really cost? Oh, around $1 million. Sounds fine. Well, if that's the case, and you expect to get 10 years out of it, you've got to reserve $100,000 a year for 10 years alone, so that at the end of 10 years, instead of putting your hand through the thing, because it fell apart from the UV rays and mesquite and whatever else, you can buy a new one.
Yeah.
Not get caught with this, oops, we've got $1 million bill coming up this year, where are we going to get the money from?
Right.
And again, there's a lot of other expenses involved with something like this. They're already building one, and they're ahead of us in St. George anyway.
And there's the next question. Yeah. What do you think the impact is going to be on the private development of a similar events complex that's going on right now in St. George?
I think they'll get most of the business. There's only so much to go around. There's only so many soccer teams and et cetera, et cetera. And I know there's been a lot of justification or attempt to justify this, and that's fine. But when they talked about, let's see, one of the issues was brought up, originally it was to be an indoor sports tent. And then all of a sudden I heard at Council that it would be a multi-use function. Well, my question is, what kind of multi-use are we talking about? Oh, we can have conventions and we can have this and we can. I don't see Las Vegas giving up one piece of a convention to Mesquite. They want it.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they do. And they've got a lot of places to have conventions already. You've got the former Hilton Convention Center. You've got the Thomas and Mack. You've got all these facilities already in place. So are they going to come up to Mesquite? It's doubtful, especially to use a facility of that magnitude.
The other issue with the sports complex is the location of it. Right now, the RFP that's supposed to be ready shortly, according to the other interviews I've done in the last couple days, is for the design requirement is for one location only, and that's at the base of Flat Top Mesa.
Right. In as much as I'm not in favor of it anywhere, would it benefit the blighted area of the downtown better than it would up there? Probably so, to some degree, but I don't know how much of a degree. We're a small community. We've got a little over 17,000 people. We're not going to boom in the next 2, 3, 4 years. So for the time being, it almost wouldn't matter where it was, I think. Would I like, if it was to occur and I was to have my pick, I would say yes, in the city itself, rather
Okay.
than way up there, which most people don't know exist anyway.
Yeah. Okay.